Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. The sun is shining down on me here in Surrey today, so it's a glorious day, and I'm delighted to be joined by Lizzie Gallagher from Thermo Fisher Scientific, where I can see the sun shining as well. It certainly looks like it through the window where she's calling in from. And today we're going to be talking about productivity within the lab from development to QC. And the reason we're talking about that is that Thermo Fisher Scientific have got a BioPharma user meeting coming up in Basel at the beginning of May the 4th, in fact, where they are talking about maximizing efficiency, exploring analytical science solutions from development to QC. So we thought, why don't we use that as a basis to learn a bit more about productivity? So Lizzie, first of all, good morning. How are you?
I'm great, Rizwan. Thank you so much for having me. And you're right, the sun is shining. It's a miracle in Ireland, as you can imagine. We
Well,
usually have 4 seasons in a day, so I'm waiting on the winter and the spring to come along as well.
well, I don't think it's any different in the UK, to be honest.
Yeah.
So fantastic. Well, look, it's lovely to meet you. As I said, we want to talk about productivity. So my first question for you really is, if you're looking at the lab, what are some of the challenges people face in the lab which hinders them from being productive in the first place?
Sure. There's many challenges that people working in the lab face that kind of affects productivity. I know that when I worked in the lab, some of the challenges that I faced were things like aged instrumentation, a lack of automation, and bench space, and the use of some really traditional labor-intensive assays, which had a lot of end-user interaction, which could lead to things like data inconsistency and things like that. I think we can all relate to the global supply chain issues we're having at the moment. And I think more than ever, we need things like, consumables that last a bit longer. We need to get more information from our instrumentation with less samples. And I think that, we need to really look at automation as a means to free up lab personnel to do other duties. There's so much to be done, so let's free them up to do it. And I think that we're so connected across the globe at the moment, and have been for a number of years, that I think, creating software scenarios where people can share information, that's so important right now. And how do you do that, in a compliant, ready way? So I think there's lots of areas for improvement in productivity. We've a long way to go, but I think, you look at a lot of manufacturers at the moment are putting so much work into really powering that productivity. That's a really exciting time.
One question I will ask is, do you think that that has changed post-pandemic? Because obviously the pandemic had an impact with a lot of people working remotely, etc., having to access information remotely. So do you think things have improved because of the pandemic?
I think so. I think our arms have been a little twisted at times. I know that for a lot of my friends and colleagues that do work in lab settings, things like being able to access their mass spec or their LC remotely has become so important. And I do think maybe we were given a little push during COVID, but it's amazing because of the innovation that's come from it. So I think it's definitely a silver lining in what we all, trudged through for a number of years. So yeah, I definitely think it's been accelerated.
Now, one question I'm going to ask you, as a layperson who's never worked in a lab, so so forgive me if this sounds a bit ignorant, but is there a difference in terms of the challenges people work when they're working in terms of development to those who are working maybe in QC? Or is it the same challenges regardless of which area you're working in?
No, that's a fantastic question. I think that, if I can relate it to my own time working in QC, we were really responsible for that final product. So, testing the consistency, making sure that it was safe for consumer use. So things like throughput, consistent results, and really releasing batches was the pinnacle point for us. And with that, obviously maintaining compliance at all times, which is a #1 goal for any QC laboratory. Whereas I look at my own colleagues when I worked in QC in development, and they would really be along kind of, looking at new products or improving the ones we had, new formulations, a lot of research, conducting a lot of investigative studies. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this. It's less perhaps routine in the development department. So what they look for in their instrumentation is a little bit different. They look for a lot of flexibility.
Right.
They look for being able to understand the drug really well with what they have. So they really want to get into the nuances. Whereas in QC, we wanted to know that that finished product is exactly what it says on the tin and that it's safe for people to use. And really that throughput being important, because QC is that last step of getting that drug to patient. So I definitely think there are differences, but when we look at how development look at potential new assays that might save time or increase sensitivity, those assays in turn might transition to QC. So they really do, although they might have different primary goals, they do work in step with each other, I think, more than people might realize. So different goals, but working towards a kind of a similar outcome.
Right, okay. And so if we start looking at how you can improve it, what are some of the ways, I know you touched upon it in the intro when we talked about this, about the challenges, but what are some of the ways that people can improve productivity in that workflow, if you like?
Sure, and I think we touched on it in this conversation. There's some really, really incredible innovation happening for the last couple of years. It really is so exciting to watch. It's pretty magic. And I know that at Thermo Fisher, scientific power and productivity is at the forefront of everything we're doing at the moment. We're hearing it from industry, perhaps a real result of COVID, but it's something we're hearing over and over again. So it is something we focused on, but I think we're hyper focused at the moment. So when I look at things like, columns, for example, building columns with better selectivity that last longer. We look at things like the multi-attribute method, which has become so popular and is continuing to become so popular, and for good reason. It takes these really labor-intensive tests and rolls them into a mass spec assay.
Can I
So
stop you there
really
for Lizzie?
exciting.
I mean, you mentioned multi-attribute, but for people not familiar with that, can you just explain what that is?
So in a quick 2-second explanation, because you could go on all day, the multi-attribute method essentially takes some, or very kind of labor-intensive methods such as like ELISA, SEC, and rolls them into a mass spec method, which is really exciting because, as I said, it's freeing up lab personnel to do other duties. So that's something that, you look at that from a productivity point of view and go, well, that makes complete sense. And I know the FDA, as well as some of our industry partners, are really investigating that at the moment as a replacement for these larger methods. So things like that, we look at, for ourselves, and we look at things like the Vanquish Duo, which is 2 LCs in the footprint of 1. I mentioned that bench space when I worked in QC was a premium. Things like that make sense. It's the demand that's coming from the market, and we're really rising to the challenge and trying to meet that demand. And again, you look at enterprise software. We're offering Chromeleon enterprise software that allows that global connectivity in a compliant ready manner. So there are some of the things you can do to improve productivity, and it's really about freeing up the scientists and the knowledge to be able to focus on other things, because that's the really exciting part.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. Now, as I mentioned, this is really a prelude to your event, which is coming up in Basel on May the 4th. So for people who don't know about the event, why are you doing it? And what is the content, basically? Well, what are you doing at the event?
Sure. So our event, as you rightly said, will be on the 4th of May. It's going to be in the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel in Basel in Switzerland. And it really focuses on productivity rather than specific instrumentation, which would be in keeping with how usually events are held. They might be mass spec events or LC events. What I wanted to accomplish with my team was to have something that just focused on a theme rather than a type of instrumentation or a type of solution. So it's really all about productivity, and you can kind of, hence the name, maximizing efficiency, exploring analytical science from development to QC. So what they can expect is it's an amazing networking opportunity to begin with. So it is actually open to everyone from development to QC, from pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical backgrounds. So I think those worlds as well are starting to collide a little bit, which is, again, another interesting topic. We're going to have inspirational speakers, such as Dr. Jonathan Bones from NIBRT, which is the National Institute for Bioprocessing Research and Training here in Ireland. We're also going to have Dr. Da Ren, which currently is the director of the scientific director at Amgen. And again, it's just going to be an opportunity to network and to learn about some of the productivity advances that Thermo Fisher Scientific have made. And again, opening that invitation to people from development to QC, from pharma to biopharma.
Right, fantastic. Well, that's brilliant. Well, look, people, if you'd like to know more about that event, the link actually is going to be above the video, so you can click on it and see the agenda and see who the speakers are and find out. And in terms of numbers, I mean, what numbers would you normally expect to buy a user event? I know it's very difficult. I'm sure you're hoping for lots and lots, but the room will only hold so many anyway. So, so on average, how many people do you normally get?
So on average, we would be looking for about 70 to 80 attendees. We're doing quite well on the registrations at the moment, so I would recommend that if people are interested, that they sign up at the registration link as soon as they possibly can. Switzerland in the summertime is a very popular spot. We're very close to a water park as well, so the hotel is, the hotels in the area are pretty booked up. But yeah, we will be looking for about 70 to 80 attendees. As I said, awesome networking opportunity. So
Well, Lizzie, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you for giving me that quick summary of how people can improve their productivity and what some of the issues are. So there you go, viewers. If you would like to know more and attend, then check out the link above the video and find out. The attendance is free. So just fill in the form and register now. So Lizzie, thank you very much. Enjoy the sun in Ireland while it lasts. I hope you have a lovely weekend as well this Easter. And viewers, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful time over the weekend. And until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.